Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2006 BMW 530 Xi Wagon. Up front is a 3.0 liter inline 6, and down below is a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this BMW 5 Series wagon, the E61, for two reasons. First of all, I haven't done a wagon of this generation. I did a 5 Series wagon way back in the day, one of my very early reviews, but of course a lot of time has passed since then. I also really like this generation, I really like this engine, and so it seemed like a slam dunk to do this one here today. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. Last but not least, huge thank you to North Naperville Autos for letting me borrow their 5 Series wagon here today. You could browse their inventory down in the description below. But let's get back to that N52 3-liter straight 6 under the hood. Well, in my personal opinion, this is one of the better engines that BMW has came up with. It might not be the most powerful. 255 horsepower might not knock your socks off, unless they're Hanes socks, which the elastic goes out the door after a second wear. But it's a relatively reliable engine. It's simple for what it is and just the way that it's presented. It doesn't have turbos. It doesn't have anything too extracurricular going on. And I've driven several N52s, and I like the power that it delivers. It's nice and solid, and it doesn't rely on that turbocharger for a little bit of pop and pizzazz. It is what it is. It's no frills, it's no hidden messaging, it's just a straight 6, and I really like that. Like I said, paired to it is a 6-speed automatic, 1 gear per cylinder. And again, it shifts fine, it does the job. It's not sporty, but it's not a slouch either, so I guess it exists in a good spot. Last but not least, this is all-wheel drive. That is what the X in the BMW naming system means. This is all-wheel drive. So if you want an all-wheel drive wagon, well, you might not have to look any further. How does it feel to drive the 530 Xi? Well, I really like it. It does give that premium experience. Again, I think a lot of that is thank you to that inline 6 under the hood, but visibility is pretty good, especially out the back. That's what I love about wagons. They have these big cartoony windows, at least most of the time, so that is nice. Ride quality is okay. Better than what you would find from a budget brand of the era. Definitely better than like a Subaru Legacy of the era of which I've driven. However, I wouldn't say that this is a plush cloud ride that you might expect out of a luxury brand. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 4 gauges. Off to the left is my speedometer and fuel, and off to the right is my tachometer and MPG gauge. I also do get a little digital readout for some things like the outside temperature, miles still empty, things like that. On the steering wheel, on the left, we do have our volume and phone options, and off to the right, we have our skip track, and we have our favorite buttons, which can be programmed. To the left, we do have a climate control vent, fog light switch, and headlight switches, and moving out of the door, we have power mirrors and power windows at this very interesting angle. Moving into the center, we do get the BMW iDrive system. I am not a big fan of this iDrive system. Mainly the fact it is really outdated. This vehicle is 20 years old, so you can't really knock that too hard. However, they got really glitchy as the time went on. It's not a super easy system to use, and we'll talk about the selector later on because I also don't love the feeling of that. Down below, we do have 2 climate vents, hazard switch, and central locking button. And then we have our climate controls. Happy to see dual zone climate here in the 530 Xi. Where to send it in the center, pretty simple there. And then we have our CD player down below, DVD player, and then some buttons for our heated seats, DTC, and parking sensors on and off. We do have a little openable ashtray and cigarette lighter. The shifter looks fine. It's a little plasticky, a little bit on the cheaper side, but it's held up over the years, so I guess I can't hate on it too hard. And then we have the selector for the iDrive system. This has a terrible tactile feel to it. It does not feel good. It does not feel secure. It does not feel high quality. It feels like a gear with a bunch of rubber bands connected to it because it has a very inconsistent turn rate, if that means anything to anyone. It's just a very weird feeling dial. We do get buttons for menu and voice commands, and then we do have an opening center console that has all these different weird contraptions and cubbies, and I feel like it takes up more space than it needs to with all of these extra openings and secret hideaway spots. So, not the best there, but what can you do? Now, we do have cup holders. However, they are not found down here in the center console. They're actually found up on the dashboard. We will do a big friggin' bottle test. It fails. BMW was set on doing these. It kind of cleans up the interior and keeps them out of the way when you're not using them, which is great. However, they all broke because they can't hold that much weight, and us Americans love our 96-ounce raspberry Kool-Aid, so, you know, it ends up breaking these quite a bit. It fails the big friggin' bottle test. Wah, wah, wah. The seats are comfortable. They are leather, and they are heated and power, and I like them. They're decent enough. You know, very characteristic of the era. These aren't any of the crazy sports seats that we saw in the M cars. These are just simple black leather, and they work well. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, we're in the back, a very sunny back of the BMW 530 XI. Oh my gosh. 2 climate vents, 2 12-volt outlets, 2 heated seat buttons. We also do have a center console that folds down. We have openable cubbies in there and pop-out cup holders, things like that. The back seat space is not great, although the seats do curve forward to actually allow space for my knees. My knees actually aren't hitting the seat in front of me. They sort of come back out to give the driver more space, which almost triggers my claustrophobia. So it's not a very great back seat to be back here, and that's a little bit surprising just given the fact that it's a 5 Series. This isn't a 3 Series, this isn't a 2 Series or 4 or 1 or whatever. It's a 5 Series. It should have a little bit more space, and it honestly really doesn't. So kind of interesting, although I do get to enjoy this giant panoramic sunroof. Forgot to mention that while up front. Here, if you want to take a look at it, there it is. Pretty nice, huh? Let's hop into the back and take a look at the trunk and cargo space. Right around the back of the BMW 530 Xi from 2006, we have a button in here and lift it up. The struts are a little bit old, however, they are getting fixed by the time this video is out. Once we are back here, these are some of the battery things. It was having a battery issue, so those are out and about, but plenty of space back here in the back of the 530 Xi. That is one of the big perks of buying the Wagon, is that you get the extended amount of trunk space. We also do have a 12-volt outlet over here. Love to see all of that. And of course, the second row does fold down as well. So that is the rear cargo space within the BMW 530 Xi from 2006 in wagon form. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I love this generation of BMW. I don't think this is the prettiest BMW ever made, but I do like it, and I love the wagon. That's the big selling point. I don't overly love the 5 Series from this era, but now that it's a wagon, it is so much better. It is just fantastic, and I love to see that. I think it's also aged really well. Looking at this and saying, oh, that's a 20-year-old car? Man, that is a good-looking 20-year-old car. By then, cars are dust. By then, cars are history. But no, this actually, I feel like, could compete with relatively modern automobiles. And I think BMW has always been on the forefront of design. They're always a few years early, whether that be that they're leading the charge for that said design, or they're just really good at knowing what's going to be hot. We saw this with the recent M3 and whatnot. Everyone thought that it was pig nose, and now that's kind of the industry standard. So I like that BMW has that ability and that gravitas towards it. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving this 530 Xi? Well, I like it a lot. You know, I think this car does a lot of things really well. However, let's be sure to get the downsides out of the way. The interior feels just a touch cheap. Now, I'm not at a great point of reference because this car now has 102,000 miles. It's 20 years old. Who am I to judge past things like that? However, I will say that some of the plastics in here are kind of creaky, and, you know, it just doesn't feel like the most premium that I might expect out of a German brand. However, there are a lot of good things to praise this vehicle for. Mainly the fact that this is an inline-six all-wheel drive wagon. All-wheel drive wagons are already hard. Well, wagons in general are harder to find, but all-wheel drive wagons are even harder, and with something as good of a power plant as that inline six is just a winning combo that doesn't come up all the time. This is that little green swatch on the roulette wheel. It has great features, especially for being a 20-year-old car. I love the heated seats and the CD player, the dual zone climate, the nice wood accents in here, as creaky as they might be. That inline six, as I've mentioned a million times and will mention a million more, is great. The 6-speed is adequate enough. It's a really, really solid package for what the modern enthusiast might want. Is there the M5 of this generation? Yes, but they also have pretty severe issues. You can also find these with V8s, and although those are great, mo money, mo problems. I believe it was Socrates that said that. There's nothing thrilling about this car, but that's kind of its biggest strength. My limp elastic Hanes socks are still on my feet, but that's okay. You need socks on your feet, or else your toesies will get cold. So it's not overwhelming, it's not particularly underwhelming, but it's a very good car. I think if you're into BMWs or want to get into BMWs, you don't want something that's really gonna cost you an arm, leg, and spleen, I think this is a great option. And now that they're 20 years old, they can be found for affordable prices. I think with some nice wheels, polish it up, this would be a great cars and coffee car. So, 530xi ain't too shabby. Ain't too shabby. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to North Naperville Autos for letting me borrow their BMW 530xi. What a wonderful vehicle. North Naperville Autos is wonderful to work with. They ship to the lower 48 states. They offer financing. They are Carfax certified, as well as they offer mobile detailing. So they are really, truly a one-stop shop out here in the Chicago suburbs. Please go check them out with the link down in the description below. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.